So, Larry, you have 1992, and as bad as things got, there was always a tomorrow for Davey and the race team. July 1993, the world comes to an end. Is there any way to put into words what that day 2 or 3 and the next week and the next month was like for you?
Yeah, the thing on July 13th, 1993, I personally didn't just lose the driver that helped put me on the NASCAR map, that I was winning races with and contending for championships. That was minuscule. I lost my best friend. You know, in October of 1991, Linda and I, and Liz and Davey, because our two boys, Robbie and Brandon, were just a few months apart, we had them baptized together, and Linda and I are Robbie's godparents, and Davey and Liz are Brandon's godparents. Our friendship was beyond what you could imagine. So the driver-crew chief relationship was just minor. But, you know, 93 started off rocky. It was a lesson learned. We were so invincible in 1992 that I think we got, for lack of better words, we got fat and lazy during the off season. We didn't work. We didn't work to get better. We worked. Don't get me wrong. We worked night and day, but we just felt like we're ready for 93. We kicked their butt in 92 with torn up race cars and a driver that was hurt the majority of the year. All we need is a fresh sheet of paper and we're ready. And we even went to Daytona and looked like we didn't even know what was going on. Now, we did mess around and come back and win Richmond, which ended up being Davey's last win. But just the whole spring was just discombobulated. We were trying stuff, and this didn't work. It's almost like we started throwing darts. But we were trying to play catch-up because we didn't work to get better. We rested on our laurels between 92 and 93. And the sad part is we took this brand-new race car to Loudon, and there was no question we hit on something. You know, had it not been for a late race caution, we're probably going to win that race. But it was a car with the combination we were running that it had to have long runs. And I knew when that damn caution came out with just a handful of laps to go that we were toast. And we ended up finishing third to Rusty and Mark. But still, we left there going, finally. We finally have honed in on what's been missing. And Robert and Joey Knuckles and Raymond Fox and myself, there were 3 or 4 or 5 of us. We did this on a pretty regular basis. Davey would leave Hueytown, stop in Charlotte, and pick us up in his plane, and we'd fly to the track. And then coming home, we'd fly back. He'd land in Charlotte, let us off, and he'd fly on to Hueytown. So I saw something different. You don't realize it when it's happening, but then when you reflect back how different this was. Because normally we'd get on that plane, and Eli Gold was on the plane with us. We'd get on that plane, and Bobby was on there, and, you know, Davy'd get left seat, Sam Mance would get right seat, and we'd all get in the back and fly home. And we got on that plane, and Davey was pretty darn happy about this run we had because, again, we were in a little bit of a funk. And he says, "Dad, why don't you fly right seat, let Sam fly left seat? I'm going to sit back here and have a beer with my boys." Wow. And it's like I'd never seen this. I had never flown Davey Allison's plane that he wasn't flying left seat. So we sat back there and we cut up a little bit, but we talked about Loudon, Pocono coming up. Maybe we want to take this same car to Pocono, you know, that we just ran at Loudon. And we got to Charlotte, and all of us except Sam and Davey and Bobby and Eli got off. And Davey and I always talked around 11 or 12 o'clock on Monday. And he says, "Hey, before I forget it, are you okay if we talk Tuesday? I'm going to fly up to Talladega tomorrow and watch David Bonnet, Neil's son, do an ARCA test." I said, "Yeah, we'll talk Tuesday." I said, "I think we got a pretty good plan." I said, "because we've talked for the last 2 hours." But I said, "Yeah, let's talk Tuesday." And, you know, we're in the shop. And I remember Robert walking through that door like it was yesterday, and he was as white as that door right there, and he almost couldn't speak. And, you know, Robert, he had that way of rubbing his hands through his hair, and he says, "You need to come in the office." And he said, "Davey's in trouble." Well, my initial feeling was, oh, God, what has he said or done now? He had a way sometimes of getting himself in a little bit of a crack about saying something he shouldn't have said. And he said, no, he's crashed that helicopter. And, you know, Robert and I and our two wives, Felix Sabatis was good enough to let us use his plane, and we flew down there. And, you know, Liz, throughout the night until he passed away, she asked me several times, "Do you want to go see him?" And I said, "I don't. I want to remember him like he got off that airplane, or like when I got off that airplane, because I just knew he was not going to make it. I wasn't giving up faith, but I just knew with what those doctors were saying." And I said, I don't want to remember him laying on a hospital bed with tubes and wires just being kept alive. That's not how I want to remember Davey Allison. I want to remember him sitting in that airplane having a beer and him aggravating the hell out of me about different things. That's how I want to remember him. And if I thought it would have made a difference, heck yeah, I'd have went back there and saw him. But I knew it wasn't. And I'm so glad and relieved today that I didn't. So Robert and Carolyn and Linda and I fly back to Charlotte Monday morning, and Robert and I go straight to the shop, and the guys are at the shop. And I'm sorry, this would have actually been Tuesday afternoon and Wednesday morning, and the guys were there at the shop just kind of lost, you know. So we right then made the decision that we would not go to Pocono. I mean, Robert had to make a call to Ford. He had to make a call to Texaco, but that was a very short conversations. And we just made the decision not to go. And we knew that he was probably in heaven looking down at us going, "You weak dogs. I cannot believe y'all are not going to go race." But he wasn't the one that was going to have to be in Pocono and deal with this with tears in your eyes and try to prepare a race car for a driver to drive off in a corner 170, 80 miles an hour. Just couldn't do it. Our heart was not going to be in it. And we're glad we made that decision. So we go to U.S. Airways. Actually, that's who was doing all the charter stuff back then. They actually created a charter flight. It was called Flight 28. And we flew to Birmingham and you know, had the funeral on Thursday. Flew back, and it was so weird, Rick. You know, none of us were related. Robert and Doug, of course, were. But we gathered at Robert's house Thursday night. All of us, our wives, our kids, just like a family gathers when a family member passes away. And that's what we needed. That was the beginning of our healing, was getting together as a family. And small race team, engine shop and all. I don't know if there were even 20 of us, but we gathered at Robert's house. And from Thursday through Monday, I just shut it down. I did not watch the Pocono race. Just Linda and I and the two kids just hung out at home with no phones, no nothing, just trying to begin this healing process. And I'll be honest, did the thought ever cross my mind, do I want to do it anymore?
You just read my mind. I was going to ask that. Yeah,
I did. It's like, okay, not only have I lost this race car driver, I lost my best friend. And I don't know, Davey, such a determined individual. And I remember he would fly that helicopter up there to Charlotte, and he'd say, "Let's go to lunch in a helicopter."
Nope.
I'm not getting in a helicopter with you, Davey. Why? I got my license. I said, "You've got your license, but you don't have experience. You've got a license. You got a piece of paper." I said, "I'll fly around the world 3 times with you in an airplane because you got experience. You got thousands of hours, but you don't have experience in a helicopter."